The girl in the wreckage. A cold silence filled the space around the broken alien ship. It floated like a dead body in the middle of the stars. Pieces of metal and burning wires drifted slowly outside. The ship had been attacked. No distress signal had been sent in time. No rescue came. Inside the ship, dim red emergency lights blinked on and off. Sparks jumped from damaged walls. Dead bodies of the alien crew lay across the control room, some still holding tools, others frozen in place, eyes wide open. In a dark corner hidden behind a broken panel, a small alien girl held her breath. Her name was Lyra. She was only 9 years old, with thin blue skin, large dark eyes, and small hands that shook from fear and cold. Her breathing was slow and shallow. The oxygen was running out. She held a round metal pendant close to her chest. It was her mother's. The last thing her mother had said before closing the panel to hide her was, "Stay quiet. Stay alive." That was 2 days ago. Now, Lyra was alone. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't slept. All she could hear was the low hum of the dying ship and the occasional creak of broken walls shifting. A tear rolled down her cheek, but she didn't make a sound. She whispered to herself in her soft alien language, "Don't let them find me. Don't let them find me." But who was she hiding from? Outside the ship, something beeped. A light blinked on the control panel. What was left of it? A signal had been received. A human rescue ship was approaching. The human ship, Nova Star, slowed as it reached the wreckage. Captain Raylan, a man in his late 30s with tired eyes and a calm voice, stood at the front of the bridge. He looked at the screen showing the damaged alien ship. No response. "Life signs are weak. Maybe one, maybe none," said the ship's AI. "Send the team in," Raylan said. "Suits on, weapons ready, and be careful." 3 crew members in spacesuits entered the wreck. Their lights cut through the smoke and dust. "No survivors so far," one of them said. "It's a graveyard in here." Then a small sound came from behind a panel. A weak cough. One of the crew turned. "Wait, did you hear that?" They pulled the panel open. Lyra screamed and tried to run, but her legs gave out. She fell, weak and dizzy. Her tiny hands clawed at the floor. Her eyes were wide with fear. "Easy," one of the humans said gently. "It's okay. We're not here to hurt you." But Lyra didn't understand. She had never seen a human before. She thought they were enemies. She reached for a broken metal rod and tried to swing it, but she was too weak. Her body trembled. She gasped for air. The lights around her started to blur. Her vision faded. Captain Raylan stepped forward and caught her as she collapsed. He looked down at her thin body and whispered, "She's just a kid." Lyra woke up in a strange room. It was clean, white, and warm. Soft lights glowed above her. A gentle hum filled the air. She was in the medbay of the human ship. She sat up quickly, her eyes scanning the room. She was scared. Where was she? Where were the others? The door opened slowly. Raylan walked in, holding a small cup of water. "You're safe," he said, kneeling beside her. "Drink." Lyra stared at him, unsure. Her hands trembled as she took the cup. The water was cold and clear. She drank quickly. "We found you on the wreck," Raylan said softly. "There was no one else left." She didn't reply. She didn't know his language, but something in his voice was calm, gentle, not like the shouting of the attackers. She remembered. Raylan noticed the pendant in her hand. He pointed to it and said, "Your family?" Lyra looked down and nodded slowly. Her eyes filled with tears again. Raylan didn't ask more. He just sat with her. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Nova Star, the AI spoke again. Incoming transmission. Unidentified ship. No response to hails. Raylan's second in command looked at the screen. "Sir, I think someone was tracking the girl. And now, they're coming." Raylan returned to the medbay and looked at Lyra, who was now sleeping. He whispered to himself, "What did you bring with you, little one?" The screen behind him flashed red. The human and the alien. The room was quiet. Only the soft hum of the ship's engine echoed in the background. Lyra sat up slowly in the medbay bed, her back against the wall. The blanket around her felt strange. The lights were too bright. The air smelled clean, too clean. She didn't trust this place. Her eyes shifted around the room, watching every corner. The moment she heard footsteps outside the door, her small body tensed. She gripped the edge of the bed and slid off it quietly. Her bare feet touched the cold floor. She took a deep breath, then she ran. Alarms didn't go off. The ship's AI was told not to scare her. Captain Raylan had given the order, let her move freely, but watch her. So the crew watched in silence as Lyra darted through the halls, hiding behind corners, pressing herself against walls, searching for a way out. She passed by a group of engineers. They stopped and stared. One of them whispered, "Is that her, the alien girl?" Lyra didn't wait to find out what they wanted. She turned down another hall and slipped through a half-open door. Inside was darkness. Storage room. She closed the door, sat in a corner, and pulled her knees to her chest. Her heart was beating fast. Her breath came in short bursts. Then she heard a soft voice behind her. "You don't have to run." She turned quickly. Raylan was standing near the doorway, hands by his side. No weapon, no armor, just his calm face and a soft tone. He didn't move closer. "I know you're scared," he said. "I would be too. But this isn't a prison. You're not a prisoner." Lyra didn't speak. She didn't understand every word. But his voice wasn't angry. It wasn't loud, and he hadn't hurt her. She watched him carefully. He knelt down, slowly reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out. A soft light flickered. It was a hologram. Her people. Her ship. A memory taken from the ship's wreckage. A small video clip showed her with her parents laughing, eating together. A peaceful time. Lyra's eyes widened. Her lips trembled. She reached forward slowly, touching the light. The image faded. Raylan said, "We found this. I thought you'd want it." Lyra looked up at him, and for the first time she didn't look afraid, just sad. She whispered one word in her own language. Raylan didn't understand it, but he nodded. Then she fainted into his arms, exhausted again. Later that night, as Lyra slept in a safer medbay room, Raylan stood on the bridge, staring out at the stars. His second-in-command, Commander Jules, approached him. "We got a signal, Captain. Another ship. Unknown origin. It's not responding." Raylan nodded slowly. "Still coming this way?" "Yes. Same speed. Same direction. No ID. Not even a name tag on the hull." Raylan rubbed his chin. "They're not here for trade," Jules said. "Do you think they're the ones who attacked her ship?" Raylan looked toward the medbay on the monitor. "If they are," he said, "then they're hunting survivors." The next morning, Lyra opened her eyes to something new, a tray of food. Simple, warm, carefully placed. She touched it carefully, sniffed it, then slowly took a bite. Captain Raylan entered a few minutes later, holding a small device. He placed it on the table. "Translator," he said. "Let's try to talk." He pressed a button, and a soft voice repeated his words in Lyra's language. Lyra blinked, surprised. She tilted her head. Raylan smiled. "Better?" She hesitated, then nodded. He sat down nearby, not too close, and said, "I'm Raylan, captain of the ship. You're safe here." She looked at him, thinking. "Lyra," she whispered. "My name." Raylan smiled gently. "Hello, Lyra." And for the first time since her ship was destroyed, she replied, "Hello." In the days that followed, Lyra learned slowly. She began to understand a few words. She watched the crew from a distance, staying close to Raylan or hiding in quiet parts of the ship. Some crew members welcomed her, Others didn't. "She's trouble," said one. "What if they're tracking her?" Raylan didn't argue. He already had the same fear. One night, the ship's AI spoke while he was alone in his quarters. "Captain, something you should see." A small image appeared on his desk screen. It was a tiny object, hidden deep in Lyra's pendant. A tracker. Raylan stared at the blinking light on the scan. Someone had marked her, and they were coming. Later, while Lyra was asleep, Raylan sat beside her, holding the tracker in his hand. He had removed it from the pendant without waking her. He looked at the girl, so small, so broken, and yet still alive. He whispered to himself, "What kind of monsters put a target on a child?" Then the ship shook. Alarms went off. "Incoming vessel," the AI said. No response. Weapons charged. Raylan stood quickly. Outside, in the cold darkness of space, a large black ship slid into view, silent, sharp, and deadly. Its weapons glowed red. Its signal was clear. "We have found her. Nowhere is safe." The black enemy ship stood in the distance like a shadow with teeth. No name, no lights, just silence. But silence meant danger. Inside the Nova Star, red lights flashed across every wall. Sirens echoed through the halls. Crew members rushed to their stations. The ship's AI warned calmly but firmly, "Unidentified hostile vessel approaching. Weapons active. Shields recommended." Captain Raylan stood in the command center. His hands were firm on the rail. "How long until they're in range?" he asked. 3 minutes, the AI replied. Raylan turned to his second-in-command. "Shields. Up, don't fire yet, I want to see what they do." In the medbay, Lyra sat on the floor, shaking. She could feel it in her bones. That ship outside, it was the same feeling as before, the same fear she felt before her people died. She closed her eyes and covered her ears. But her mind still heard the screams. Raylan entered the room and crouched in front of her. "Lyra," he said, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "You know that ship, don't you?" She didn't answer. She looked into his eyes that weren't cold or cruel like the ones who had destroyed her home. She took a deep breath. "They hunted us," she whispered through the translator. "They don't want survivors, they want silence," Raylan frowned. "Do you know why?" Lyra looked away. "My parents, they knew something. Something hidden. Something the enemy wanted." Raylan stood up. "Whatever it is, we'll protect you." Lyra shook her head. "No. Nowhere is safe. Outside, the enemy ship fired a warning shot. It passed just under the Nova Star, close, very close." Raylan turned on the comms. "This is Captain Raylan of the Nova Star. You've entered restricted rescue space. Identify yourself." No answer. Seconds passed. Then a message came in. Not voice, not words, just a symbol. Raylan stared at the screen. "That's not a language," the AI answered. "It's a mark, a hunter's mark. It means claim in progress." Raylan's face darkened. "They think she's property." The Nova Star didn't fire first, but it fired back. The first battle was fast and brutal. Energy blasts ripped through space. Shields crackled, lights flickered. One engine room overheated. 2 crew members were hurt, but the enemy ship didn't aim to destroy. Not yet. It was testing them, playing with them. Raylan ordered evasive action. The Nova Star dove through a debris field, a risky move. Metal scraped the hull. Sparks flew, but it gave them time. Inside, Lyra grabbed onto a table as the ship rocked violently. In the corner, a girl, about her age, crawled in, human, small, with wide eyes. "You okay?" she asked, breathless. Lyra nodded slowly. "I'm Kai," the girl said. "I live here." Lyra didn't know what to say. Kai offered her a small stuffed toy, a soft alien creature with big ears. "This helped me when I was scared," she said. "Maybe it can help you too." Lyra held it close. Her fingers tightened. It was soft. Warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she hadn't felt in days. Safety. For now. Later, Raylan gathered the senior crew. They met in a private room with maps, signals, and data displays. Jules said, "We can't keep dodging them, they're tracking her somehow." Raylan nodded. "I removed the tracker from her pendant, but what if it's something else, genetic?" Another crew member said, "Captain, what if she's not just being hunted? What if she's the key to something much bigger?" Raylan asked the AI to dig into the broken memory core recovered from Lyra's ship. The AI processed for several minutes, then displayed a damaged but readable log. An alien voice echoed through the room. "Protect the child. She carries the code. If they find her, it's over." Everyone went silent. Raylan looked around. "She's not just running," he said. "She's carrying a weapon, or a cure, or something that can end this war." In the hallway outside, Lyra walked slowly with Kai. They passed a small window. Through it, the stars shined, and beyond the stars, the black ship followed. Kai said, "Why don't they leave us alone?" Lyra whispered, "Because I'm not supposed to be alive." Kai looked confused. "That's dumb." Lyra blinked. "What is dumb?" Kai laughed. "It means the enemy is stupid." Lyra smiled a little, just a little. Then the alarms rang again. The enemy ship had launched a probe. It hit the hull and injected something. The Nova Star shook. Lights turned red again. The AI spoke. "Foreign signal entering ship systems. Internal breach detected." Raylan rushed to the bridge. "What did they send?" "Not a bomb," the AI said. "Something else. Something alive." Raylan's heart sank. "They boarded us from the outside." He turned to the crew. "Get to lockdown, protect the girl, now." In the shadows of the lower deck, something moved. Fast, silent. It had sharp claws, no eyes, and smelled like metal and death. It had one purpose: find the girl and kill everyone who protects her, escape or fight. The silence was the scariest part. No sirens, no alarms, just the faint sound of metal scraping metal. Deep inside the Nova Star, in the lower maintenance corridors, something was crawling through the walls. It was fast, smart, cold, and it wasn't human. Captain Raylan stood on the command deck, eyes locked on the blinking map. "It's inside the ship," he said. The AI's voice replied softly. "Life form unknown, not human, not mechanical. Scans show organic and weaponized." Jules looked worried. "How did it get in?" "It rode the probe," Raylan said. "It's a hunter, probably trained to find her." They all knew who her meant. Lyra sat in the safe room, or what the crew thought was safe. The walls were thick. There were no windows, only one door. Raylan had placed 2 guards outside, but Lyra could feel it. She didn't know what it looked like, but she knew it was coming. She could feel the air change, the energy. Fear returned like a heavy blanket. Kai, the human girl, was with her. She held Lyra's hand and tried to smile. "Don't be scared. My dad says Captain Raylan always wins." Lyra didn't answer. She didn't want to tell Kai the truth. Not everyone can win. In the main hall, the lights flickered. Then the first scream came. A guard was gone. Just gone. No sound, no warning, just a streak of blood on the wall. Raylan heard the report. "It's moving faster than we can track." He made a decision. Lock down every level. Seal the escape pods. Keep the kids in the core room. Send the bots to scan the vents. One crew member asked, "What is it, Captain?" Raylan answered, "A message. They're saying we can reach you anywhere." Deep in engineering, the enemy creature moved through the shadows. It had no eyes, but it could see heat. No nose, but it could smell fear. And right now, it was tracking 2 heartbeats. One small, one pure. It was close. Meanwhile, Raylan opened a secret file from the alien memory core. It showed a diagram, not a weapon, not a cure, but a map. A map to a place marked only as Origin Vault. The last message played again. Protect the child. She carries the code. If they find her, it's over. Raylan stared at it. Origin vault, it's real, and they're afraid she'll get there. Sir, Jules said, that vault may be the key to stopping this war. If she reaches it. Raylan nodded. We need to make a choice. Run, or fight. Jules looked at him. We're not built for war. Raylan's eyes darkened. Then, we adapt. Back in the core room, Lyra looked at Kai and whispered, if something happens, you run. Kai frowned. I won't leave you. You must, Lyra said. I'm the reason they came. Kai stood up. You're not a reason. You're a person, and people don't deserve to be hunted. That's when the lights went dark, pitch black, only one sound remained. Click. Click. Click, metal claws on floor tiles. It was inside. Lyra grabbed Kai's hand. The door burst open. One guard screamed and was dragged into the dark. Lyra ran, pulling Kai behind her. They ran through the ship's lower corridors. Suddenly, a vent burst. Open. The creature leapt forward, but a flash of blue energy hit it mid-air. Raylan stood there holding a plasma rifle, face calm, eyes cold. Go, he shouted. Get to the command deck. The creature recovered quickly. It hissed and lunged. Raylan fired again, but it dodged and slashed. His arm was cut. Blood sprayed, but he didn't stop shooting. He bought them time. Lyra turned back, tears in her eyes, then ran again. They reached the command deck. Jules saw them and locked the doors. Lyra ran to Raylan's chair and stared at the ship's main screen. The enemy vessel had not moved. It was still just watching, waiting. She said quietly, they only sent one. They want to scare us, Jules asked. What do they want, Lyra? Lyra looked at them and whispered, they want me to surrender. If I do, they'll leave. Jules frowned. And if you don't, then they'll send more. Raylan entered, the deck, wounded, sweating, but still standing. He looked at Lyra. We're not handing you over. Lyra's voice cracked. You'll die for me. Raylan shook his head. We'll fight with you, not for you, not because of you. With you. He turned to his crew. We go dark. No signal. No power trail. We jump to deep space, and we find the origin vault. But Captain, Jules asked, what if they follow? Raylan looked out the window, then back at Lyra. Then we stop running. Outside, the black enemy ship sent one final signal. A new shape appeared on the map. A fleet. More were coming. And they weren't just after one girl anymore. They were after whatever she had inside her. The secret weapon. The Nova Star was quiet. Lights dim, engines off, systems cold. It floated in deep space like a ghost, hiding in the shadow of a dead moon. Captain Raylan stood at the front of the command deck, staring at a single glowing point. On the map, Lyra's homeworld, once green and full of life, now silent. He turned to the crew. This is where it started. And this is where we'll find answers. The ship's AI whispered, multiple enemy ships still searching. We have not been detected. Yet. Raylan nodded. Then we move now. Lyra stood at the window. She saw the planet before her, covered in dark clouds, burned cities, floating wreckage, her hands pressed against the glass. I never wanted to go back, she said. Raylan stood behind her. You don't have to. She turned to him. Her eyes were steady. Yes, I do. The Nova Star entered orbit and released a stealth shuttle. Raylan, Lyra, Jules, and 2 guards dropped into the atmosphere, through smoke, lightning, and thick clouds. They landed on the surface in what used to be a city. It was rubble now. Twisted, towers, shattered roads. Ash. Raylan walked ahead, scanning the terrain. Lyra followed slowly, her feet stepping over bones and broken toys. She remembered this place. There, a burned school wall. There, a statue of peace, now cut in half. Memories flooded back, running, screaming. Fire. She closed her eyes. We buried something here, she whispered. Underground. A vault. My father said it could change everything. A weapon? Jules asked. Lyra shook her head. Not a weapon, a memory. They reached the coordinates, a broken temple, half buried under rubble and black vines. Lyra knelt and placed her palm on the floor. Her skin glowed faintly. A pulse ran through the stone. Then, a soft click. A door opened beneath the rubble. A stairway. Dark. Cold. Waiting. Raylan raised his rifle. Stay behind me. They entered. The vault was made of metal older than any human ship. Walls were covered in strange symbols. The air was thick and heavy. In the center stood a glass pillar. Inside it, a glowing orb filled with light and moving images. Lyra stepped forward. Her pendant glowed. The orb responded. Images flashed in the air. Memories of her people. Children laughing. Cities flying. Then, warships burning, her people falling, and one final image. A small group of her people, scientists, parents, leaders, standing in a circle around a young Lyra. Her father's voice echoed through the chamber. We do not have time. We must place it in her. The seed. It must survive. One day when the stars are ready, it will awaken, and she will choose who to share it with. Raylan stepped back. What did they do to you? Lyra looked down at her hands. Tears filled her eyes. I'm not just a survivor. I'm a key. Suddenly the ground shook. The vault lights blinked. Jules shouted, Motion outside, incoming ships! Raylan grabbed Lyra. We're out of time. But the AI's voice crackled in on the comms. Captain, you need to hear this. Raylan paused. Play it. The enemy fleet had sent a message. In perfect, cold English. Hand over the seed carrier, and you may live. Resist, and we erase your world next. Raylan clenched his jaw. They're bluffing. The AI responded. They just destroyed the moon base at Helix 7. They're not bluffing. They rushed out of the vault. Enemy drones were already dropping from the sky. Raylan ordered the guards, buy us time. The guards nodded and opened fire, holding the enemy back. Lyra turned to the vault and pressed her hand to the orb. It cracked open and released a beam of light that shot into her chest. She screamed. The light entered her. The orb faded. Empty. Raylan caught her as she fell. Her body shook. What did you do? He asked. Lyra opened her eyes. They glowed. I accepted it. It's part of me now. Raylan helped her up. Can you control it? She shook her head. Not yet. Then we run. They boarded the shuttle and took off fast. Enemy fire followed them. One drone hit the wing. They spun through the clouds, fire trailing behind. Raylan struggled to keep the ship straight. Hold on. Lyra held the seat. But something strange happened. The ship stopped shaking. The fire faded. Everything around them froze, like time had paused. Lyra was glowing. The energy inside her had protected them. Without her even trying, Raylan looked at her stunned. What are you now? She didn't answer, because she didn't know. But outside, the enemy fleet had noticed, and their message changed. She has awakened. Send the full armada. No survivors. As the Nova Star escaped into deep space, the stars behind them burned, and in the dark, a greater war had begun. The last stand, the stars were no longer safe. Enemy ships moved like dark wings across the galaxy. Silent, cold, unstoppable. They weren't searching anymore. They knew exactly where to strike. Inside the Nova Star, alarms were no longer new. But this time they weren't blinking red. They were blinking black. A new warning. The AI spoke with a tone no one had heard before. Full armada detected. Enemy ships 37 target this vessel. Estimated arrival 17 minutes. Silence followed. Raylan looked around at his crew. Tired, wounded, outnumbered, and still standing. He turned to Lyra. She stood in the center of the bridge. Her eyes were calm, but her skin glowed faintly. The light inside her never stopped now. "They're not afraid of us anymore," she said. Raylan replied. "They should be." They had one option left. Fight. Escape was no longer possible. The enemy had blocked every jump route. Raylan made his choice. "We stand here. This ship, this crew, this girl, we make them remember why humans don't run." Jules looked at him surprised. "You mean, make a last stand?" Raylan nodded. "Yes. But not just to die." He turned to Lyra. "We fight to give you a chance to unlock what's inside you," Lyra whispered. "But I don't know how." Raylan looked into her eyes. "Then this is your time to learn." Down in the Nova Star's engine core, engineers worked in silence. One of them whispered, "If we overcharge the fusion rail, we can blast through the first wave." Another added, "But we'll lose power. Total blackout." Jules said, "We'll have 10 minutes of life support. No shields, no weapons, just faith." They all agreed that would be enough. The enemy fleet arrived like a wave of darkness. Ships blotted out stars. Their lead ship, larger than a mountain, sent one final message: hand over the carrier, or be destroyed. Raylan didn't reply. He simply whispered, "Light them up." The Nova Star fired the first shot. The battle began like thunder. Energy beams cut through the void. Shields cracked. Ships exploded. The Nova Star moved fast, dancing between beams, counterattacking with everything it had. Inside, Lyra sat in the medbay, surrounded by cables and strange tech. She had allowed the AI to connect her to the vault, code inside her body. It hurt. Every pulse of energy felt like fire in her veins. She screamed once, then once more. Then, silence. She opened her eyes, and the ship began to glow with her. Outside, enemy ships started to fall, not from weapons, but from their own systems breaking down. Raylan saw it on the radar. "What is she doing?" The AI replied. "She's disrupting them, not just physically, their network, their code." Jules looked shocked. "She's attacking their minds." But it came at a price. Lyra's body was overheating. Her pulse spiked. Her skin cracked with light. Raylan rushed to her side. "Lyra, stop, you'll die." She looked up at him, her voice was quiet. "They killed my people. They destroyed my world. I won't let them take yours." She smiled weakly. "This time, I choose." And then she stepped out of the medbay, glowing like a star. On the main deck, Lyra walked to the center window. She raised her hand. The light around her grew until it filled the ship. Outside, enemy ships started crashing into each other. Their systems failed, their weapons stopped, and then something no one expected happened. They ran. The armada turned, fled, like they had seen something older, stronger, something they were terrified of. Raylan whispered, "They fear her now." Lyra collapsed. Raylan caught her. Her body was cold. No heartbeat. Jules called out, "Medbot! Get the medbot!" They tried everything, nothing worked. Then, just as her body went still, a whisper came from her lips. "It's not over." Her eyes opened, and this time they weren't just glowing. They were burning, like galaxies. Suddenly, a message appeared on every screen across the ship. A voice from deep space. Alien. Hollow. "The child has awakened the old power. She is no longer alone. And we are not the only threat." Raylan stared. "What does that mean?" The AI replied slowly. "Captain, something else is coming." "Not enemies?" Raylan asked. "Then what?" The AI's answer chilled. "Him. Witnesses." The stars outside shifted. Lights appeared where no ships were. Shapes moved beyond space. Ancient. Silent. Watching. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning, and Lyra was now the key to all of it. A new family space was quiet again. The enemy fleet had vanished, scattered into the darkness, but the stars were no longer peaceful. Now they watched. Strange lights moved in the distance, shapes that defied understanding. Ancient beings, older than the war, older than memory. They had not come to fight. They had come to witness her. Lyra sat alone in the quiet chamber of the Nova Star. Her skin no longer glowed. Her eyes had dimmed. But something inside her had changed forever. She was not just a girl now, not just a survivor. She was a link between two worlds, between humans and the lost knowledge of her people. Captain Raylan stood outside the room, watching her through the glass. "She saved us," Jules said beside him. Raylan nodded slowly. "And maybe she saved more than just us." Later, Lyra walked the halls of the ship. Humans smiled at her now. They waved. Some nodded with respect. Others simply moved aside quietly, like she was something holy. But she didn't want to be a goddess. She just wanted to belong. Kai ran up to her holding 2 mugs of warm drink. "One for you," Kai smiled, "and one for the hero." Lyra tilted her head. "I'm not a hero." Kai shrugged. "You glowed like a sun and made bad guys run. Pretty sure that counts." They sat together in the ship's viewing dome, looking out at 1,000 stars. "Dao, you miss your home?" Kai asked. Lyra looked down. "Yes, but it's gone." "Maybe." Kai said, "You can make a new one." At the next crew meeting, Raylan stood before everyone. "We're not running anymore," he said. "We're not hiding." He looked at Lyra, sitting beside Kai. She carries something inside her, something powerful, something dangerous, something ancient, but she also carries hope. The room was quiet. "So here's what we do. We protect her. We teach her. We learn from her. And if she leads us to peace, we follow." Then, in front of everyone, Raylan did something unexpected. He knelt before Lyra and placed a hand on his chest. "You saved us. Now let us be your people too." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. For the first time since her world was destroyed, she didn't feel alone. Over the next few weeks, the Nova Star became more than a ship. It became a sanctuary. Lyra helped repair systems with knowledge from her vault. She taught the crew simple alien healing methods. She shared memories of her world through light, through music, through thought. And slowly, the crew changed too. They weren't just soldiers or workers anymore. They became her family. But far away, across the stars, whispers began to rise. Other worlds had heard of the Eye battle. They had heard of the girl with the light. Some wanted to protect her, others wanted to use her. And some wanted to erase her before the light inside her reached others. One such voice echoed from a cold, distant system. "The child survived. Unacceptable. Send the silencers. Burn everything around her." On the Nova Star, Raylan stood in his quarters staring at a small old photo of Earth. He placed it beside a new photo. The crew, Lyra in the middle, smiling, laughing, alive. He turned to Jules. "We can't keep running forever." Jules asked, "Then what do we do?" Raylan replied, "We build a place where no child like her ever has to run again." Lyra stood in the cargo bay, looking at the stars. Kai joined her. Lyra whispered, "They're coming again." Kai replied, "And we'll be ready." Lyra took a deep breath. "I'm not afraid anymore." And then she smiled. Not because the war was over, but because now, she wouldn't face it alone. She had a ship. She had a crew. She had a family. Far in the dark, corners of the galaxy, the ancient beings, the Watchers, whispered among themselves. She chose them. They chose her. So it begins. A new kind of war. Not for control, but for the soul of the galaxy. And in the center of it all, a once abandoned alien girl who refused to die quietly, and a human who refused to leave her behind.